Hi, this is Mary Moquin, and at the urging of some of my students, I decided to put up a little color mixing exercise on YouTube so they can try it at home. When I do color mixing exercises, I try to use colors that are complements to each other, ones that we're less likely to know what's hidden in between of them. So we all know that the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. So a complement is a color that completes one of the primary colors, is the way I like to think about it. So if we have the color green here, we know that green is made of blue and yellow. And if we have blue and yellow, the color that's missing from the primaries to complete that is red. So red is the complement of green. A lot of people will tell me that they don't put green on their palette, that they usually just mix their greens from blue and yellow. Well, that's fine, but sometimes it's nice to shake things up a bit. And I think something really interesting is what you'll find right now between the colors of green and red. And what I have here is I have a permanent green light by Gamblin, and I have an alizarin permanent also made by Gamblin. So any kind of a complement will do. So that means, you know, your blues and oranges, your purples and yellows, or reds and greens, and I'll probably put up a few different ones eventually on YouTube if I get around to it. But I thought I'd start with this one because I think it's a very interesting color. So what I usually start with, I start with the lighter of the two colors. In this case, it would be the green versus the red. I tried the color plain and straight, and I'm putting it down here on a piece of mat board that has been gessoed. If you were doing acrylic, you wouldn't have to gesso it first. If you're doing oil, I suggest you gesso it because eventually the oils will bleed and make this a little messier looking. So then I go back over here and I take the green and I put some green in a nice clean place on my freezer paper. This is the same as when you get the palette paper that you buy, but freezer paper here by Reynolds, you get it at the grocery store, a lot cheaper by the roll. So take the green, take a little bit of white, titanium white here, mix it in with the green, enough so that the green is visibly altered. Okay, looks a little bit lighter. Nice. Take some of that, and we're going to put it over here underneath it so we can see the difference once the light is added to it. Now I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to kind of get some of this paint off of here, grab some more white, trying not to get too much green in my white paint. I don't want to mess that up. Now, add some more white so I can see what it looks like. Mix it really thoroughly and see what it looks like. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put another piece of that below it. So now you can see 3 different values of it. Then I'm going to get a little more white. I'm just going to get a little piece of it over here because I have a lot of paint here. I don't want to use up a ton of white. So there's some white. I'm going to add it here. So I get a really good idea of what this color looks like out of the tube. Across the top up here, I would write that this is Permanent Green Light by Gamblin, because every permanent green light from different manufacturers, it won't look the same. The important thing now to do, and this is where everybody messes up, is to get rid of all this paint. I know it kills you because you spent all that money on that tube of paint, but look, get rid of it. Do not touch this again. Do not go into that pile again. This is where everything falls apart. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to start with some more green in a fresh place. Put it here, right? Nowhere near there, away from there. Maybe a little bit more. Okay? Permanent green light again, by itself, nothing else. I'm going to clean my knife off again. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to grab the teeniest, tiniest, itziest, bitsiest bit of that red. See? Look, a little, right? I'm going to add it into the green. And you'll notice how quickly it alters the color of the green. So it didn't alter it very much, but I'll take a teeny, tiny bit more. Again, a little bit. And there's that lawnmower back again. And I thought they were done. Now they're weed whacking out there. All right, take that, bring it over here, put it next to up at the top. You notice it's a little darker, a little different color, a little less intense, a little less clean. All of those are colors that we use to describe what happens when the complement is added. So important, once we've mixed this down, once we've added a little bit of the red to it, we're only going to add white to this pile from this time forward. So I'm going to go get a little bit of white. I'm going to add it in here, mix it down. take this, bring it over, put a little bit under. Come back here, wipe off my knife again, grab a little more white. If I don't wipe my knife off in between, what's going to happen is I'm going to grab some of this white and there's going to be a little green in it and it's going to change this color. And I only want it to see what it looks like when it gets lighter with white. I don't want to have the color change at all. So I'm mixing it in very thoroughly, you can see. Take some of the color, bring it over here, put it down. Can you see the difference between these two colors? That the one on the right is a little bit more muted, it's a little bit more grayed. It's really subtle at this point. I'm going to add just a little more white so I can really see what it looks like when it's light. There's no magic as to how many levels of this you do. Right now I have 4 of each. Would depend on the color. So I have 4 slots, 1, 2, 3, 4. It would really depend on how dark the color was and how much it was changing as to how many times I'd go add white to it. Now again, we're going to clean all this off. Very important. Clean it, clean it, clean it. That way you won't be tempted to go back into this spot again. I'm going to grab some more of the green, the original green. Take the green, put it down here. Wipe off my palette knife in between. Get some, a little bit more red this time. Getting this permanent illusion. A little more. We'll see how much. That maybe is too much. We'll see. Notice that it's also going to darken the value of the color because now what we're dealing with, the red is a darker home value. So it's also going to darken the pigment as well as alter it and make it less green. So here's a little bit of that in comparison. A little more. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to clean it. In this pile that I just created now, from this point forward, I am only going to add white. Don't be tempted to get more red. Okay, so it gets a little bit of white down here, lighten it up, see what it looks like, mix it really thoroughly, clean, a little more white, take that, add it underneath. If you don't mix up enough the first time, you can't try to remix it, so make sure you make a big enough pile because you'll never get the same exact color, and we don't want the color to change at this point. We're only making it lighter. Okay. A little more. Nope, forgot to clean the knife off that time. On there. So again, 4 seems to be enough. See how much it's altered? Beautiful. All right. Okay, one more. I'll take a little more green again. Remember, we're not going to go back to that place. 1, that's the first one. That was where the second one. That's where the third one. We're starting a new pile. Right? Very important. Always go to a new spot. A little more red this time. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's how much it's shifted. So, and sometimes we go back and forth a little, but try to be consistent. Try to move it enough, make enough change. On the white paper, you can kind of see as you scrape away. You know, if I decide at this point I haven't made up enough of it, then that's fine to go get more green. It's just once you start adding the white, you don't want to add any other color but white. So get a little more red. So I don't think I had enough here. Let's see what I got. You can take it and compare it. It's like, to me, it still looks really similar to what I had before. So I'm going to add a little more red. Some people find 1,000,000 colors between the two. Some people don't find enough. It's a fine balance. Now this has gone a little too far. I went a little crazy with the red. See? This happens. Very precise science. Takes a while. This is also, you're learning about how your paints work. You're learning how strong the pigment load is. You're learning how little a color that you need to affect another color. This is all valuable information as I am getting a little more green out because I used up all my green. So I'm going to take a little more green. Oop. Okay, this looks like a good color. I'll take some of that, bring it over here. You can see the change. See how it's getting darker and darker, less intense. I'm going to get a little more red. No, not red. Oh my God, I almost did it. Just add white. At this point forward, just white. Got distracted there. That's what happens. You get distracted, next thing you know, you're grabbing colors and messing it all up. I added quite a bit of white this time. So I guess I'm only going to do 3 on this one. You can see the difference. Look at how much of the shift as we're going. All right, now I'm going to do a couple more. Cleaned off that area. Started over again with green paint. Fresh green, new spot. A little heavier on the red this time. At some point in time, the colors are going to cancel themselves out. They're going to be, well, the aim is to find a color that I can't really say if it's red or it's green. When I look at this color here, it's still a little bit more of a green. So it'd be nice to find one that I can't really define easily. But it's going to be hard because it's also going to kick over to being a little red pretty quickly. You can see already how much redder that one is than that. There's probably a color in between those two. I'm sure there's a color in between them. However, it's all your level of patience as to how far you take this. It's still green. It's going to head towards a lovely, some nice brown swampy colors. To do it right is tedious. I will admit it. But once you have all these charts together and around you, it's almost like having an open box of pastels near you. You can just reach out and look and say, gee, I'd really like to use that color. How did I make that color? If you have your charts, you can figure out how you made that color. Okay, only white from this point forward. I was afraid I had too much. There we go. Mix it in cleanly, mix it in thoroughly. This is a pretty neutral color. Give me a little shine there. Sorry if that's hard to see. More white. I usually err on the side of having the last one be really light so that I can really see what the color looks like when it's light. Okay, so I mean, you can definitely tell that this color is warmer than that color. It made it jump. We know there's a color in between, but again, look at the way the transformation is going so far. Eventually, as we continue this way, we'll get to a point where the color is basically all the red. So that's how we will end this chart. We'll go all the way from the green with all the transformations in between until we get to just plain red at the end. I advise people not to start by putting the red down here, though, because we don't know how many colors are going to be in between. It's unknown. Okay, so we're not going to go back here. I'm not going to scrape it off, though. I trust at this point you understand that we don't go back to that pile. Start a new pile of green. Quite a bit of red this time. Again, it's totally your patience level as to how many colors you find in between. Some people are very patient, but you want to find a lot. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. colors that you were unaware of that they were there. I mean, we all know that if I was going to do, you know, there's no reason to do colors that we already know. We all know that yellow and red, we're going to get some orange. We all know that, you know, blue and yellow, we're going to get green. But did you know all these beautiful browns could be found? And these browns are so much richer than any browns you're going to buy out of the tube. And they're all going to harmonize so beautifully with each other. Look at that beautiful brown. The real richness to that. A little more white. A lot of white, so you can just see beautiful flesh tones almost. We could get there. This one is so rich, I think I'm going to take even more white. I can see what it really looks like pale. Isn't that lovely? Beautiful color. Trying to get away from the glare there. Beautiful browns. So we got a progression now from green. I mean, all of these together in a painting be luscious together. All right, I'm going to go this now because we've gotten so close to the end. I'm actually going to probably start with the red and add a little bit of the green. Because at some point or other, you're kind of crossing that halfway point. All right, so we need a little more green, a little more red. So why don't I take some red and add a little green to it. We'll mix the halfway, once we pass that halfway point. If you keep the other colors around, the other patches, you can kind of tell if we're, oh yeah, I should have, no, too much. Now we're getting a little more towards the color of the alizarin, right? Almost there. Take the alizarin, put that here. It's very dark too. That's another reason we add white, is because it's so dark we can hardly tell what color is really hiding in there. Just adding more white, remember? This alizarin is really, really intense. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm also learning from this. It takes a lot of white to affect it. It's a really beautiful, strong color. Ooh, there it goes. It's just starting to get pink. Now look at that. Look at those beautiful colors together. Can I block the glare? Aren't they just gorgeous together? I get so excited about color. This is what my work's about. These subtle shifts and nuances. And it's all found between 2 tubes of paint. All these colors. Just 2 tubes of paint and white. Right, so now I'm definitely going to start with the alizarin. I'm going to add just a little bit of green to it because I feel like we've almost reached the end of this. Of course, I didn't mix enough, but oh well. There's probably a color between these two. I got lazy. Strongly encourage you to take it as far as you can get it. Just really take your time. But I would drive you guys crazy if I went as slow as I normally would go. This is a slow process. Some will even call it tedious. But once you have these done, they are just invaluable. Look at that beautiful pink. Didn't see that progression? Really, really, really nice. I'll do the same exercise using the same alizarin and maybe like a phthalo green. And then you get all these beautiful blues and blue grays in it. I'll give you a short list at the end of all the colors to try. Tiniest bit of, well, I think I'm just going to go plain straight alizarin out of the tube at this point. Okay, so let's take the alizarin, put it here. And put alizarin by itself. And now the alizarin with some white. A little more white. You can see you see the difference even between these two. Can you see? This over here is a little dirtier. I usually try to mix this a little cleaner. There we go. And more white. See the difference here between the two pinks? When I say we have a dirty pink and we have a clean pink. One over here is a little bit dirtier because it's got a little bit of the green in it. It's a little cleaner. Like I said, there's another color probably between these two. I jumped a little too fast. But right here is a nice progression from permanent green light to alizarin. So again, doing another one with phthalo green and alizarin. I would do another one with the same green, permanent green light, with something like an orangey red, and also the phthalo green with an orangey red of some sort. Then we would do the blue and yellow. I would usually take an orangey yellow, a very orange yellow, mix it with ultramarine blue, and mix it with phthalo blue. Then I would do a really yellow orange, like a cad yellow deep. And I would mix that with the same two blues. With the ultramarine blue, I'd do a chart, and then I'd do a chart with the phthalo blue. Then we do the same thing with purple and yellow. I would take a yellow that's very, an orangey yellow, like a cad yellow deep, and then a very pale yellow, almost a lemon yellow, and mix that with a bluish purple and a reddish purple. And there are tons more that you could do, but this is just so then you have like a color family of charts. You can create a painting just based on the reds and the greens, or just based on the blues and the oranges. So that's my challenge for you, is to do as many of these charts as you can and find new, subtle, interesting color relationships in your work, instead of just relying on those same old mixtures that you get so in the habit of using. That's it.